welcome to GTM's Tax Automation series on OneSource tax provision functionality. In this episode, we are going to talk a little bit about tax adjustments and the impact that they have in the payable. So it's important that we kind of set these tax adjustments up in a particular way if we are looking to get our entries correct, because at the end of the day, we are trying to post journal entries, and if they don't go to the particular places that we need them to, then our entries will be incorrect. So this takes place in the dataset area. So what we have are cash tax adjustments versus non-cash tax adjustments. And in OneSource tax provision, anything that does not start with NC underscore is considered a cash tax adjustment. So in my illustration here, I have a tax provision, and you can see we've got some items that are considered cash tax adjustments. We have an FTC guilty, we've got a miscellaneous adjustment, R&D credit, and a top side. Now, what delineates a cash tax versus a non-cash tax? Anything that's considered a cash tax adjustment will go into your return basis provision. The understanding is that these will have something to do with your current year's liability. And in essence, this is what you would expect to see on the tax return that you are filing. So because it is having to do with your current year's activity, the assumption is that that will post to the payables automatically. And so you will see this return basis provision number is what we are seeing showing up in the CPROV payable auto posting. Now, there's some other things that within OneSource tax provision, the assumption is that although they're not related to your current year's liability, meaning they don't impact your current tax return itself, that you do have to make adjustments to the payables because you ran them through in a prior year and you have to correct for those. So things such as a return to provision, or if you have any kind of audit adjustments, you may want to book those to your payable to make sure that your payables are accurate as of this current point in time. So the system has automatical functionality for posting these types of items. And two of those are your NC underscore RTP. So let me just jump ahead here to the next slide and then we can go back. So if your non-cash tax adjustment, when you set it up, is set up the prefix starting with NC underscore RTP, NC underscore RTP underscore year. So that would have a specific year and then any name that you want to put on the back end. If it starts with NC underscore ATR and then name, year and name, and if it starts with NC underscore other. What's going to happen is that when this gets entered into OneSource tax provision, the software is going to automatically post those adjustments over to the receivable payable, with the understanding that this has to do with prior year activity. So when it looks at the vintaging, it is going to look at the data set year that you created. So in my working instance, I'm working on a 2022 data set. It's going to assume that the entry I am putting in has to do with the 2021 year at the earliest. So if it has NC underscore RTP with no specific year, it's going to assume that I want to do a 2021 year, and that's the vintage year it will assign to the entry when it automatically posts to the payable. If you put a specific year in your adjustment, it is then going to put that year, post the entry to that particular year. So what happens when you've created adjustments that do not start with these prefixes? So if I go back up to my prior slide, you'll notice that we have all these adjustments here sitting in the non-cash tax adjustment. Now we've got two items for the RTP totaling $1.2 million. That's what you see here in the receivable payables. The additional adjustments that total $9,076,000 are not all posted. But let's say I wanted to post the NC underscore withholding tax. I wanted to set up the withholding tax on the receivable payable. How do I go about doing that? So let me just jump into the software. First of all. So what we can do is within the data set itself, there is the ability to put this modification in. But I'm looking for something called the tax adjustments payable screen, and it does not exist right now. So if we were to go into the admin area and activate, we have to actually tell the system that we want to kind of set up this mapping functionality. So once we do that, that screen will appear. So let's go into our manage configurations area. I'm going to go into the advanced functionality under payable, and I have to check this box yes, and that will enable my mapping screen. So I'm going back to my data set. And when I select the drop down, I have a tax adjustment payable mapping screen available. So if you were to put this in manually, you'd simply click add and then just kind of go through all of the drop down screens. I actually have something already prepped, and I'm just going to import that into the software. Now, the automated posting, the system knows what it's supposed to do with entries that start with the prefix that are allowed, right? With anything else, you have to tell the system exactly how the data has been entered in the review and edit screen. So you have to give the adjustment code. Then you have to tell the system what fiscal year you want to post to in the receivable payable, what transaction type, the bucket you want to use, and the payable tag. Then you also have to say what adjustment class and subclass you used when you were entering the data, and then what class and subclass you want it to post to in the payable. So let me go ahead and import this into the software. I'm going to import my file. I'm just going to continue without saving here, then go back in. Okay. All right, so now that I'm back in, I can see my items sitting in the system. Now, if you notice, items on the left have been grayed out. So going forward, when you roll your data sets over or copy them over, this will also go with the data set. So in a subsequent year, you would simply have to update the fiscal year that you want this new posting to go to. And anything else on the payable side, if you want to change where those should be posted. The underlying entry where you enter the data, you will not be able to change. So if that changes, or if you are entering with multiple classes, you're going to have to enter a line for each one of those. Now, the additional step is, because this is not automated functionality, we have to tell the system that we want to post the payable with the manual mapping. So we're going to go ahead and check this box here and save changes. So I'm going to go back into my reporting. Select unit 100. That's my provision. I'm just going to run that again, just to recalculate everything. And then I'm going to run my payable. So while that is running, I just kind of want to bring attention to the NC underscore FIN48. I know many clients do track their FIN48 in the receivable payables. So if you do want to do that, then you would simply have to map those as well, using that manual tax adjustment mapping to get it to post to the receivable payable. Let's see if my report ran. Okay, yes, it did. So you'll see I have my original items. I am looking to see this 4,000,005 number post over to the payable. Let me run my payable report. Okay, so now here's my 4 million 5, along with the 1.2 million that had previously posted for the RTP, because I told the system I wanted it to go to this other line, which is my auto posting for non-cash tax items. You can see it here. And that's how we can set up the system to take care of posting of non-cash tax entries over to the receivable payable and still keep our flexibility for recording non-cash tax adjustments that we don't think should impact the payable. I hope you found this session helpful and look forward to seeing you on the next one.